what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and today, shout out to my last video where we talked about teams that are the biggest sleepers going into this season. Today we're going to take a look at the opposite of that, the most overrated teams going into the 2022-23 NHL season. So let's get this going. So we're going to start off on the East Coast as we're looking at the Washington Capitals. So I might piss off some fans there in the DC area, but the Washington Capitals are the most overrated team for me in the Eastern Conference. Now the reason for that, I'm a firm believer that this is a team that has maybe gone past their twilight years, right? They're starting to get into the twilight years, right? They're no longer in that cup window. They're still kind of in the cup goggles from 2018. But listen, last time I checked, we're in 2022. It's been 4 years since the Washington Capitals won a Stanley Cup, and the next crack they'll have at it is 2023. It'll be 5 years since the Caps won a Stanley Cup. This is not that same team anymore. Not to mention, they're going to start this season with a couple of their key guys out, injured, and potentially not even returning this season. There's no certainty there. Looking at specifically Nicholas Backstrom, he's a huge loss for this team, and if he does not play this year, it's even more concerning. He's having an issue that might not ever get rectified, and that is very concerning for the Capitals and their fans, because there is a chance that Backstrom does not play this year, which would really suck, but that kind of seems to be the situation there. Same thing for Carl Hagelin. Kind of a freak accident. I think a stick poked him in the eye during a practice last year. He may never see out of his right eye again. So, again, that's even more than just hockey at that point. So, it's very concerning when you've got those two guys out, and those are both forwards. Not to mention Tom Wilson will also probably miss the beginning of this season. That's part of the reason they brought in Connor Brown from Ottawa, which the fact they brought in Connor Brown from Ottawa makes me think they see him as that kind of presence in this lineup, because there's a good chance we don't see Tom Wilson for a little bit to start the season. So those are three pretty big name forwards in your top six probably. Maybe Carl Hagelin's a third liner that are no longer in the lineup, and I think Washington is a little bit scary in that regard. Not to mention their blue line. I'm not necessarily sold on their blue line. Unless Alexander Alexiev and Martin Fehervary come in and become top four defensemen right away, I do think Washington's going to struggle on the back end. And not to mention, not a huge fan of the goalie additions. I do like Charlie Lindgren as a backup, but I think Darcy Kemper's a little overrated, and that's partially in today's video, right? We're talking about overrated teams. I think Darcy Kemper was a little overrated out of Colorado. That was a really good defense in front of him. He's not going to have that same group in front of him in Washington, and I do think the Capitals will struggle a little bit this season. I'm not worried about Ovechkin. Alexander Ovechkin is still a very good hockey player, and if anything, I think he's a little underrated right now with how good he is. Everybody looks at that age and the gray hair, thinks he's on his last legs. That's not the case. But as a team, there's only so much Ovechkin can do, and I do have the Washington Capitals being a little bit overrated. Now we head to the West Coast. The Vegas Golden Knights. Now this is going to reflect when you guys, if you haven't already, make sure to check out my power rankings. The Vegas Golden Knights, I'm sure is going to be kind of interesting once that video comes to you guys, because I think it's a little bit low, considering what most people will probably think of the Golden Knights. Now, I think most people will be glad that the Golden Knights are where they are, because they're, get them. Vegas is getting theirs now. But the Vegas Golden Knights, again, kind of similar to Washington in the sense that they have a lot of injuries to start this season, and they have a lot of injuries, specifically in between the pipes. I don't know what I'm thinking right now with Bruce Cassidy as the head coach. I think it's a welcome addition, but I don't think the coaching is the problem here. I think it's just it's not even the roster, because the roster and the lineup looks good, right? It's going to look nice on T-Mobile Arena. The starting lineup tonight, Mark Stone, I was going to say Max Pacioretty, but that's no longer the case. Mark Stone, Bill Carlson, and then all of a sudden you start to go, well, who's the starting goalie? All right. Logan Thompson, Aiden Hill, If you're lucky, Laurent Brossoit, if he's healthy by then. Those are the things where I look at Vegas and I'm like, okay, maybe they are a little overrated. Now, they do still have a good blue line when healthy. Shea Theodore is obviously a good player there. Alex Pietrangelo is a good player there. But again, once you start getting injuries, that third pairing, the second pairing starts to get a little bit more murky. And that's where I have my concerns about Vegas. The biggest concern, though, is goaltending. Without their starting goaltender, Robin Lehner, and probably their backup, Laurent Brossoit, really makes me concerned about where they're at right now. They did bring in Adin Hill, and I think the reason they brought in Adin Hill is because they don't expect to see Brossoit and Lehner in the lineup to start the season, which means Adin Hill and Logan Thompson is probably your starting goalie tandem in Vegas to start the year, which is obviously, to say the least, not starting off on the right foot. So that's my take on Vegas. Again, let me know what you guys think. Are you guys happy that Vegas is probably going to fall off this year? Or are you a little bit more optimistic with the new coaching change that will be enough of a fix and, they've gotten to the root of the problem? I think they have to dig a little deeper and get rid of the management entirely. But that's my take. Then the third team, staying in the Western Conference, is the Dallas Stars as one of the most overrated teams in the NHL. Dallas, just listen, I think people's perception of Dallas has changed and is more realistic with where they're at. But Stars management seems to think, listen, these guys got to produce and this, and this is a big year for them. Come on, we've heard this story before. I mean, I hate to say, you look at their top paid guys, it's kind of hard to ignore. Tyler Seguin making $9.85 million until 2027. Jamie Benn making $9.5 million for the next 3 years till 2025. $9.5 million per season. Let me say that again. $9.5 million per season to Jamie Benn. Yikes. And he put up 46 points last season, which is almost a 50-point season, but $9.5 million. You also have, there is optimism in the sense that you do have some pretty decent players like Denis Gurianov, who I think is pretty good. Rupe Hintz is very good. Mason Marchment, I think, was a good addition there. But the fact they don't have Jason Robertson signed yet, there is some... I have to say I like their blue line, and I like their goaltending with Ottinger, and I think that is their saving grace is Jake Ottinger. He's going to be able to steal them some games. But when it's all said and done, I think Dallas Stars' expectations are to make the playoffs. I think most people will assume that they do. I do not think they make the playoffs this season. I do think they are a bit overrated. So that is my most overrated teams going into this season: the Washington Capitals, the Vegas Golden Knights, and the Dallas Stars. Let me know your guys' picks down below. Who do you think are the biggest and most overrated teams going into the 2022-23 NHL season? Guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for the latest updates on the channel, the latest videos. Make sure to click that button down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.